Hey friends, this is the Miss Wolfie from our Half Acre Homestead. Well, today I'm starting the process of making and canning my version of minestrone soup. First things first, Howie bought these steaks in late spring. And they weren't the steaks I asked for, but we put them in baggies, and of course you can see that the baggies didn't hold their seal. So we're going to use these steaks, and they're going in to the pressure canner. Is my rack in the bottom? Yes, make sure your rack's in the bottom. Okay, that should work. Now that the beef is in there, this is a bowl of carrot peels and ends. They've been washed because I'm processing carrots right now too. I'm going to put these in here. At this point, we're going to make the broth. Okay, I got a head and a half of garlic, in it goes. An onion, in it goes. And here is one of the bags from the freezer of my celery ends. Let's hope we can get that in here. Maybe not. No, that's too much. All right, so some of these will be going back in the freezer. I'll know now to make smaller sized bags. Maybe like a bread bag of vegetable ends. All right, one more of these, take one of these out. There, these can go back in the freezer for my next batch. I'm just going to use this 1 gallon water bottle. It's my tap water, my well water. I just didn't want to lift a pot. I'm going to put in, I don't know, half a tablespoon of peppercorns. Don't put ground pepper in because you won't be able to strain it off and it will make it bitter. That's why I use whole peppercorns. And a bay leaf. These are my standard broth makings, whether it's chicken or beef. And now I'm going to add a gallon of water to this. Okay, almost 2 gallons of water. Because I realize I've got like 7 steaks in there, 8 steaks. So whatever I don't use in broth in the minestrone, I can use. Let's wipe the edges off our canner. I can use, or I can can up as beef broth, beef vegetable broth, right? So it's not going to hurt if I have extra broth. Okay, so now we're going to make sure there's nothing in the valleys of your canning things. So we're going to put our lid on, and we're going to bring this up to heat. Then we're going to spout, when this starts to spout a steady stream of steam, we're going to vent the canner for 10 minutes. And then we're going to put a 10-pound weight on it. And I'm going to process these for 90 minutes. Now, some people says that's overkill. But I tell you, you want every ounce of flavor that comes out of the meat and the vegetables, right? So we'll be back when that's doing its business. Folks, I wish you could smell this. Now, it has been spouting a steady stream of steam for 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and put the 10-pound weight on. And as soon as that produces a vigorous jiggle, I'm going to turn it down to medium, and I'm going to pressure cook it at 10 pounds pressure for 90 minutes. Here comes our first vigorous jiggle. There it is. Now I'm going to turn it down to between medium and maximum, and I'm going to set my timer for 90 minutes. So our timer has gone off, and I'm just going to shut off the canner, and I'm going to go work on my veg prep. We have to let this cool right down so that Papa can lift it, so that we can safely open it, and Papa can strain it and strain the ingredients. Okay, I got this out of my garden. I got some onions. I actually got some leeks and a whole bunch of celery here. I have garlic. I'm going to use this up. I'm going to use these onions up, and this is the last of the carrots. Let's commence to chopping. Oh my goodness. Oh, and I have, you can't see it, but I have a dish pan on a chair to my left. And I have a box for garbage. I have a dish pan on the chair to my left so that I can put my chopped stuff in for washing, because a lot of this is dirty. So let's get all this green out of the way first. Okay, let's start with the leeks and the onions from the garden. They're not going to go to waste, right? We didn't get much, but we're not going to exclude them just because they had a poor year. So, just gonna, these are all going, this is still dirty. I've taken them over to the sink and I've washed them off. This is still dirty, but they're going into a dish pan of water and everything is going over to the sink to be washed. You can use these to make vegetable broth. I probably will wash the leek greens and put them in the freezer for when I make my chicken, when we dispatch the chickens. Okay, so here's celery from my garden. This is not all of the celery, obviously, from my garden, but my dish pan, as you can see, is full of carrots, onions, and leeks. I still have to do this garlic, but because it's really messy with paper, yeah, don't look at my shirt. I should have worn an apron. But this is, I have another stock pot over here because this celery is not going to fit in the dish pan. My garden is a jungle right now of squash vines, beans going to seed, and beds of celery. But that's okay. Let's just, yes, I got my favorite knife out of the dishwasher. Again, these have been washed, but they're going to get washed again. That's why I'm putting them in the stock pot. Especially when it comes from your garden, it can get really, really dirty. Okay, so here is a dish pan full. And I'm going to have to add some more water and some ice because it's going to sit overnight. Here is, I'm going to say 1/3 of a stock pot of celery. And this is 2.5 cups of garlic. This is all going to sit in cold water until tomorrow. And again, these vegetables, again, are all going to be oven roasted. All right, so we'll see you in the morning. Okay, here's my veg. Now, it looks like it's more carrots than anything, but the celery and the onions and everything are mostly underneath. Now, I have been told that real minestrone soup has bacon in it. So, we're just going to put a little bit of olive oil on here in this pan, heat it up. We want that oil kind of hot before we put our bacon in it. This looks like it's going to overflow, but it's not. Most of this is going to start to shrink, and we're going to get a lot of juice, right? Like the bottom layer is the celery and the leeks and stuff. So now we just want to drop this. You go ahead and cut up some slices of bacon into tiny pieces and then caramelize them in olive oil. I just happen to have canned bacon that once it hits the pan, it goes into tiny pieces anyway. Now, I'm just going to pour that right over top. And if these get a little crunchy on top, that's fine. So these are going into a 400-degree oven for about an hour. Here is my stock. I'm sorry I couldn't film it, but it's always a difficult thing to do. So I'm going to put half of this stock into one pot. I'm going to divide it between the two pots, and I've got 2 pints of my home canned kidney beans. Into each pot, I'm putting 2.5 cans. I'm doing it separately just in case. If I can get it to fit all in one pot, I will, but I don't think I will be able to. So, there's 1. And there's 2. Yeah, I don't think all of this would have fit in 2 pots, or in 1 pot. All right, this last one, I am going to divide between the 2, because once this pot goes down, while I fill my jars, I can top it up with this one, and the ingredients are exactly the same. Okay, so I have 2 pressure canners with the required amount of water in the bottom, plus their racks, and a shot of white vinegar in each one to keep my jars from clouding. Here is my tomato and meat and veg broth. Here is our beautiful roasting pan. I wish you could smell this, folks. Of garlic, onions, leeks, celery, and obviously carrots. Now, I'm going to take 2 jars of my home canned kidney beans, and I'm just going to mix these in with the veg. Now, I'm pretty sure that this is going to work out perfectly, because the last time I had this much vegetable, I used exactly a stock pot of sauce to work it together. So, alright, let me get my jars in order and my lids, and we'll be right back. I almost forgot the star of this show. The steaks. And they're so tender. I've left them in the fridge and they're just breaking apart. Didn't even have to cut them up. Just like that, look. Alrighty, here we go. Now I like to start anything with this amount of liquid in it, with putting liquid in the jar first. Why? It makes it so much easier to debubble. I'm just going to put a handful of meat in there, and then I'm just going to add some more veg. And there's broth that comes with this veg too. I'm just going to top it up to a little more than 1 inch from the top. Why? Because it'll go down when we debubble, because you always debubble. Right? We have our washed, rinse lids in hot water, and our clean and washed rings here. Always wipe your rims and threads with a clean damp paper towel. Put a lid on, and into the pressure canner that goes. Okay, I got 7 jars in each pot. I'm going to lock the lid on. I'm going to lock the lid on this one and on this one. And as soon as they start to spout a steady stream of steam, we'll start timing them for 10 minutes. But we have leftovers. I have leftover spaghetti and meatball sauce from supper. I have leftover pressure cooked steak. I have leftover veg. Now I could run another canner tomorrow, but you know what? Briar's going to be home tomorrow night, and as much as he hates celery, he'll love this. So this is going to be supper tomorrow night. Well, that's a little full. You didn't actually see what I was doing. It's that late at night and it's that tired I am. This was the leftover spaghetti sauce, and the leftover veg, and meat, and broth, and tomatoes. Look at that. That is tomorrow night's supper. All I have to do is bring it up to a boil, throw in a handful of pasta, but that's going in the fridge. This canner is now spouting a steady stream of steam. I've set my timer for 10 minutes. This is a larger canner on a larger burner. This is a smaller canner on a smaller burner. It has its own timer. All right? So when we hit 10 minutes, we'll put weights on these. Okay, our timer's going off for this fella. Our other one is just now starting to spout, and not even a steady stream yet because it's on a smaller burner. So we're just going to have to wait. But as soon as we produce it, this one, cheese and crackers. As soon as this one produces its first vigorous jiggle, I'm going to set the timer for 90 minutes. Why? Because there's meat in this. So if this was in pints, it would be 75 minutes, but it's 90 minutes for quarts. There's our first vigorous jiggle. And now I'm setting my timer. Oh, shush up. I'm setting my timer for 90 minutes, and I'm going to turn it down just a little bit so that it doesn't go crazy. That we want it to calm down just a little bit, but still maintain pressure. 90 minutes, because it's in quarts and there's meat. Okay, these have been processing for 90 minutes, so I'm just going to shut them off and let them cool naturally, okay? Don't immerse them in cold water. Don't jiggle the weight. And for heaven's sakes, folks, do not try and open them until you can at least hold your hands on the sides of the pot for 5 seconds comfortably, okay? So we'll see you in the morning. Look, isn't it beautiful? 14 quarts of soup. So thick that you could add a jar of broth and still have a hearty meal. This one, however, did not pop down. It did when I touched it, so this one's going in the fridge for soup another day. This is the Miss Wolfie from our half-acre homestead saying, what do you got when you're down to the last to the bottom of the carrots, some over-frozen steaks in your freezer, and celery in the garden? You got minestrone soup, baby. Cold weather comfort. Come and get it. Take care. God bless.